Welcome to Creating Synergy, where we explore what it takes to transform. We are powered by SynergyIQ. Our mission is to help leaders create world-class businesses where people are safe, valued, inspired, and fulfilled. We can only do this with our amazing community. So thank you for listening.
So welcome back to the Creating Synergy podcast. My name is Daniel Franco, and today I have the amazing and wonderful Eloise Hall on the show. Thanks for coming on, Eloise.
Thanks so much for having me.
Managing Director of the amazing social enterprise business Taboo Period Products, in Daily 40 Under 40 in 2020, Advertiser Woman of the Year recipient, TEDx speaker. You're still studying and doing a whole bunch of stuff. Amazing career today. Congratulations and kudos.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a fun time.
Been a bit of a ride. Can you, I'm going to start off the podcast with a little bit of a strange question, and you've probably never been asked this in a podcast before, but what comes to your mind when you hear sausage dogs and heat pack socks?
Sausage dogs and heat pack socks. I know where you're going with this. Those were two inventions that I made up as
Brilliant.
a kid.
I absolutely love it.
The heat pack socks, myself and two other girls at school, we entered the Oliphant Science Awards in the innovation category. Yeah. And yeah, these socks were hand knitted, and then we stitched our own kind of heat pack, so just wheat bags essentially into the socks. Yeah. Then you put the socks in the microwave, and then you put the socks on, and your feet are warm.
Unbelievable. I told my wife about this, and she said, "Where can I buy them?" So I think there's a product there for you to get out there and sell.
Yeah, and the sausage dog invention. I think when I was little, I just heard that sausage dogs have really sore backs because their backs are so long. Yeah. And I invented this little, I mean, I'm sure it exists, and it probably existed before I thought of it, but little, I guess, support system that sits under their rib cage, and it's got two little wheels, and it just kind of holds their back up as they walk along.
How old were you when you did that?
Oh, maybe 10 or 12.
And did you have a sausage dog, or did you just hear about it and you thought...
Yeah, I just heard about it.
So did everyone think you were going to become a vet or something at that point? Or
maybe. I was obsessed with my dog, who was a Keeshhound, big fluffy guy.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I always look at those dogs. My cousin's got one of those dogs, and I always think to myself, oh, something's going on with that.
You need a set of wheels.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so tell us, who is Eloise? Like, what's your story? I mean, I just gave a little bit of a brief background on some of the highlights, but tell us your story about, from school into starting this business and, traveling the world to find what is now your passion, I guess.
Yeah. Where do we start? I guess, my family is... working class, very well supported. I've always had a really great education. Mum's a teacher, so she's always been very hot on having a good education.
Absolutely.
Dad's a used car dealer, so that's probably where a bit of my entrepreneurial business spirit comes from. I've always been a pretty secure kid. Like, I had everything I needed, which is what I think kind of allowed me to think more philanthropically and think about other people, because I had, my parents and my two older sisters looking after me pretty well. Was a pretty good student. I wasn't perhaps the most academic student, but I did love school, and I loved just being surrounded by people every day. Big on the arts. Yep. I think in year 11 I did drama, art and music, which was awkward for my timetable. I remember the teachers thinking, well, that's a bit awkward when you have to move.
But it's definitely a creative thing there, right? Like, given the creations that you've made as well, and then the arts is definitely a creation thing, an entrepreneurial spirit there.
Totally. Yeah, I've always had a bit of a wild spirit coming up with different ideas, and was, super passionate about drama and music, did every musical theatre, I guess.
Were you the main act? Like, were you the main actor?
The musical that I'm most proud of and had so much fun with was Addams Family. I played Morticia, the mum.
Well done.
That was great fun.
Yeah, long black hair.
Yep.
Yeah. Serious character.
Oh, yeah, but so fun.
Yeah.
So just have been pretty enthusiastic. In year 11, year 12, Izzy, who's the other co-founder of Taboo, and I were school captain and vice school captain.
Oh, great.
And we were running all these charity fundraisers and just getting into it. We just loved leading fun events and, fundraisers.
Yeah.
We went to a leadership conference just before our year 12 started, and we met Daniel Flynn, who founded Thank You Water.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with his book.
Yeah.
And the way it's written, like it's the only landscape book written like that. It's written in landscape form. Yeah, it's amazing.
Genius.
Yeah.
And that is such a great, I guess, metaphor to the way that he's done business is just, still publishing a book, still running a business, but doing it in a way that is different. It makes you think. And he really inspired us to understand more about social enterprise, because he was the first really social entrepreneur that we'd met, and the first person that had said, this is a giant problem that we have, and we have a responsibility to fix it. And in Thank You's case was wanting to improve quality of water so people weren't dying from waterborne diseases.
What leadership, what drew you to go to a leadership conference at, in your year 12?
Yeah.
For me, I was worried about sport and
Yeah.
going out sort of thing.
Yeah.
You're,
We had those worries too,
yeah,
don't we?
yes.
It was through school because
okay.
because we were leaders.
Was it in South Australia, or did you? Because Thank You's interstate. Did he come here? Did he?
No, it was a conference at Bond University in Queensland.
Yeah, wow.
And it was school leaders from, I think, maybe all all girl schools.
Yeah, okay.
Their leaders were
Yeah.
invited, and
Which school were you at?
Wolford on Unley Road.
Great.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So I think they shouted our flights,
Yeah.
or they shouted our tickets, and we had
Half
to pay for the flights.
Half
and
your luck, yeah.
Yeah, it was really inspiring.
Yeah, Daniel's story is amazing. I recommend the book a lot to a lot of people. It's
Yeah.
just if you, especially with the work that we do, purpose is the big part of that, and we help businesses through change. So finding the purpose of that change is really fundamental. No doubt the work that you do, which is all built around change and purpose.
Yeah, and Daniel Flynn was the first person to explain to us that you can create a business out of the pursuit of wanting to create change. And he was, obviously, Thank You sell bottled water. At that stage, it was just bottled water.
Yeah.
And then all of the profits that the company generates goes into eradicating, waterborne diseases and providing people with safe and clean water. And as Izzy and I were rattling the tin can at school, asking people for their extra cash and coins for whichever charity we were raising money for at the time, it just made sense. We just thought, well, why can't we just sell something to these people that they want to buy and that they will buy anyway, and that we embed the change that we want to drive into that structure, into a business structure, rather than just asking people for their extra cash. And that just brought us into this giant rabbit hole of, okay, cool, how does social enterprise work? But also, wow, what issues can we solve? And wow, oh my goodness, so many girls don't go to school because they can't access period products. And this is, it broke our hearts. And then we just kept on researching and understanding what period poverty looks like. And we already had a solution to the issue that we had, I guess, been brokenhearted about. So that's the why, and I guess the how we became passionate about the business that we run now. Yeah.
Looking back, did you you're in year 12 and you're thinking about your career, did you ever think you'd find yourself running your own business with such an impact and such a purpose?
It's such a good question because I can't pinpoint where my head was in year 12.
I think, can anyone?
Yeah, it's true. I think, I was always quite focused on going with the flow and moving through the movements and opportunities as they came. So I never really had this one pinpoint dream. And I knew I wanted to be advocating for human rights in some capacity. Yeah. And I knew there was a better way to do that other than charities. So in that sense, I didn't know exactly which direction I was going. I was probably thinking about acting school and,
What drew you to believing that you wanted to have an impact on and advocating for human rights? Like, where did that sort of love and desire come from?
Yeah, I think it does, not to sound too cliche, but it comes back to my own sense of privilege that I had. Like I was so aware of how secure I was in comparison to the most of the world. And I can't remember exactly the terminology, but I think if you've got a roof, you've got a job, and you haven't gone hungry this week, you're in the top 1% of the world's wealthiest people.
Yeah, wow.
So having that understanding just was quite heavy, and I knew that I had a responsibility to do something with what I was given. And I think it's a biblical verse actually, to those who have been given much, much is expected. And that's the mentality that I've really just been excited by. It's not a burden. It's not like, oh gosh, I've been given so much, I have to do something.
Yeah.
It's just an opportunity. Like,
Well, I'm in a position of strength.
Yeah.
So I should do something.
Exactly. And I remember in year 10, maybe, I was really upset about how privileged I was. It sounds ridiculous, but I just thought, this is so unfair. Like, just because I was born into this family, just because, you know, I had the set of circumstances that I did, I'm just as human as everyone else. But there are so many girls that can't access period products. They can't go to school. They're getting married at my age because that's the only sense of security they have. And it just aggravated me to the point where I was so ready to quit school and do what? I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's probably the time frame where I started percolating the opportunity rather than the frustration. Like, I can pull that anger into purpose and do something.
It's a pretty amazing thought process. You are right, though. I mean, even just like from for me as a perspective, being a white male, just automatically, you know, the privilege is automatic.
Yeah.
You know, and but it's only a recent thing actually that I've thought about. When I say recent, sort of the past 10 years or so, where I've actually thought, shit, I am in a position here where I can create and can have an impact.
Yeah.
So let's use it for good. But I wasn't thinking that way in year 10. So I mean, kudos to you and where your brain's at. But let's talk about Taboo and the name. Where did the name come from? Because I know a little bit about your story, but can you tell us how you came up with the brand and how you then decided to grow it? And I know there was some overseas trips to Kenya and the like. So can we go into that a little bit?
Totally. Yeah, I think Izzy actually came up with the name. We were in year 12 when we were kind of pulling apart the opportunity. If this was going to work, what would it look like? What would we sell? Okay, cool, pads and tampons. Really setting those foundational structures of business. And obviously we didn't have a name. And we had maybe 5 or 6 names throughout the year that we were playing with. And Izzy was reading a book for, I think, an English subject. And she just read the word taboo. Obviously it's a really common word and it's used in a lot of normal sentences and language.
Correct.
And she just thought that could really work because it's quite tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
Obviously, the topic of menstruation and period poverty is very taboo. It makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we know that the shame and the stigma attached to menstruation is one of the reasons period poverty exists. Because it's not discussed, people feel ashamed because everyone's too uncomfortable to talk about it. Then the accessibility of products is decreased. The opportunity you have to say, hey, these are too expensive, isn't really there because it's a taboo topic.
Yeah.
So we thought,
It works really well.
yeah, tongue in cheek, let's call it out. Let's make people question why it's taboo for the very moment they say our brand's name.
Yeah.
It's quite fun. It's worked really well.
And so the I guess the one story I'd really love for you to share is the story of when you went to Kenya and you know, you went to a couple of the schools there, I guess. Yeah, can you share that story with us as well?
Totally. Both Izzy and I, when we were younger, before we went to Kenya and India, we both have been very passionate travellers. Like I saved up my pennies working in a fruit and veg shop since I was 12 so I can travel. Yeah. And so we've both been really inspired by just experiencing different cultures and travelling as much as we can. It would have been 2 years into the creation of Taboo where we really thought we need to know practically and we need to experience or at least witness what period poverty looks like in contexts other than Australia. Period poverty is pretty prevalent here. Anyone that is struggling with other, domestic violence or homelessness definitely can experience period poverty. But we really wanted to know, okay, if this is a global issue and if we're working to this cause in a global context, we need to know what we're talking about. We can't just pluck stories out from here and there. We shadowed 2 organisations, one in Kenya and one in India, and these organisations were designed to provide menstrual support for people who were at risk of period poverty. And it was so phenomenal to witness how it was delivered, what the cultural norms and, I guess, rules and regulations were about how menstruation is discussed in these places. And one of the big lessons I learned was that menstruation is such a unique experience, and it's so culturally, it should be culturally protected. Like, everyone talks about menstruation in a different way, and it's not our place to say who's right, who's wrong. This is how you should do it. But it was more of a reminder that, wow, improving menstrual education needs to be very much at the forefront, and improving accessibility of product needs to be forefront. But we need to make sure that every culture can do that in their own way and completely preserve that cultural practice and delivery if there's improved access to healthcare at a point blank. There were some incredibly strong girls that we met that were 13, 14, asking us, how do I keep myself safe if I'm walking from school to home? I live 4 kilometres away and it gets dark by the time I get home, but my period pain's so bad I have to stop and sit and I don't feel safe. What do I do? And then they're just thinking, I have no idea how to support you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
How do you answer that question?
Exactly.
When we live in a country like Australia where it's assumed that you should be safe when you walk home.
Yeah. Or pop some Panadol and put your heat pack in the microwave.
Correct,
Those things aren't accessible. It was a really powerful trip, and it just really expanded my understanding on how, I guess, development in general should be approached, because there are so many beautiful intricacies that we can respect and still deliver really important work. And this one of the organisations we followed did that. They would rock up to each school every month and deliver education. And Sam, my boyfriend, was asked to deliver education to all the boys as well.
Yeah, wow.
We'd been dating for a year and a half
Yeah,
or
wow.
so, and he's in Kenya talking to all these schoolboys about periods. Good on him.
Yeah, you gave it a whirl.
Yeah. But yeah, both the boys and the girls are educated, which is such an important
Yeah, that's
feat as
amazing.
well.
From a purpose point of view, and I guess you mentioned you started off working within Australia, and then you went to Kenya and you saw from a third world country and from a developing country it was almost chalk and cheese, would it be? But yet you're saying that the period poverty and the like still prevalent and not as great in Australia, and especially from a homelessness point of view. Is there an attraction to look at it more from a worldly point of view than an Australia point of view now that you'd been over there? I mean, because you initially started off with Australia in mind.
Yeah.
But when you see it from a world perspective, it changes everything. Where do you focus now? Like, what does it look like?
Yeah. Oh, it's such a good question. I think it's just important to remember that each place, and that can be, cities, towns, or countries, they have different considerations to keep in mind. So the work that we do now through our Pad It Forward program, where you buy our product on behalf of someone else,
Oh, great.
that's perfectly designed for Australia, because we know that our product's appropriate for Australian consumers, regardless if they're buying it or they're being given it. If we are working in Kenya, though, we would never want to give our product to a group of people in Kenya. And that's a bit of an economics, reason. We don't want to be dumping Australian product into a new economy where we could be using the money that we have for that service to supply or to buy product from a local supplier or a local manufacturer of that product, that product can then be distributed to those people, because that is sustainable economics, and that if they're getting more business, then they can employ more people, and the whole community can be pulled out of more of an impoverished scenario.
Wow.
So each agenda of work should be approached with a unique set of, there's no one blueprint for supporting people with period poverty. And that's even reflected in our work in Australia, because there are some Indigenous community groups we support that don't want to have perhaps explicit images of women and how boobs are developed, and those things can be protected, and it should be delivered by the right people. That's not our space. Super happy to provide product, and then with other groups that we work with, we can give more direct illustrations, or be the ones to deliver that education. And these are really important things that we can respect, because that's how we can preserve culture and make people feel safe. And it all comes with different
There's
set
a
of
whole ecosystem
rules.
there, isn't it? Yeah,
Big time.
What's like, so I think last time we spoke, you rattled off a statistic, and I think you alluded to it earlier, but 40%, and this is a mind-boggling statistic, 40% of girls drop out of school the day or when they get their period. Is that true? Is that correct? Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah.
Is that in Australia, or is that a worldwide statistic? Or
That statistic, I think it was 30% of girls, was in developing countries.
Developing countries.
Yeah,
Wow.
and kind of back to your question about an international perspective, one of the big differences with, for example, Kenya and Australia, in Kenya, they wouldn't have so much of an expectation that girls will finish school, whereas in Australia we do. So definitely, if you're a young person experiencing period poverty, you'll still be expected to finish school. So you'll muffle your way through, whether you use socks or toilet paper, or just not go to school that week of your period. You'll still probably stay in school. But in a country where it's not expected, or it's quite common for girls to drop out young and get married young and have babies young, as soon as they get their period, it can be such an inconvenience that they might go through school for 2 or 3 months with a period and just think, this is too hard. I'm going to tap out now, and I'm going to get married, and my husband will be my security, and then they have babies young, and that breeds so many problems. And we know how valuable keeping girls in school is to not have them fall into those consequences in a macroeconomic scale as well. We need girls to be finishing school.
Change the world.
Yeah.
So what are some of the serious things that are happening with period poverty? Like, give us a broad view of what that looks like.
Yeah, the most obvious one is the lack of schooling, that so many girls will they just won't go to school because they can't manage their life to go to school. They don't have access to period products, so they might use alternatives like socks and kitchen sponges, mattress rippings. In some places, cow dung, dried cow patties are absorbent, so they'll use cow patties. And if they are in a community where female genital mutilation is practiced as well, there can be a huge, huge risk of infection and disease, and lots of girls will die of diseases that are completely preventable if they had access to period products. And the heartbreaking thing is, so much of this is undisclosed and not discussed because it's so taboo, and it makes people feel uncomfortable. And as it should, because it is such an uncomfortable, the real life experience of period poverty is awful. But if we don't talk about it, then nothing can be done. So that's why Taboo, it was called Taboo, and we want to elevate this conversation.
And raise awareness.
Yeah. And I think most people who menstruate would know that feeling of shame and stigma as a young person when you start bleeding. It's so weird, and it's like, okay, I'm a woman now. What are my expectations? And there are so many layered forms of understanding yourself in a new capacity. And then when you have all of these, jokes or comments about periods, you just learn to forget that they exist and kind of hide them away. And then that breeds into, feeling unconfident. And we did some research about periods in the workplace, and it was, I think, 98% of people interviewed who menstruate at work had been caught out at some point.
Yeah, well.
75% of them would use period products if it was provided to them in the workplace. And it was in the 90s, maybe like 94% had felt shame or had felt that they could have been more productive or more competent at work if they felt that they had a place to be honest about the fact that they were menstruating if their workplace had product to supply them, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, if you really want to go into the detailed, even economics of it, there is a huge reason why periods should be better supported.
So, good segue. I've got a piece here on education, right? And I think it's really important, especially within the workplace and community and in a world context. But I sit here as a man with 2 daughters, a wife, a mother, a sister, not to mention that 90% of the team that I work with is female. So I'm a leader who genuinely believes in your purpose and your passion and what you're doing, which is the reason why I got you on. And it's very timely for me because I've got a 10-year-old daughter who is at the moment creating what is her puberty box for school at schools, and she's like really excited about getting her period and all the above. So I think my question is, and like I know that what you've said and you've said time again already is that you want to reduce the stigma of what of this topic and this taboo topic, right? To use your brand. So what can I do as a male? And because I'm genuine, it's a genuine curiosity question. Because I'm learning this as I go along as well, right? And especially now with 2 young daughters going through this, what can I do as a father, as a male, as a leader, as just to support? And, like how can I help? And if anything, right? Because it is, for me, it's always been a personal thing, and so I generally don't broach topics that are personal. So I just stay away, but in all aspects. So it's just I'm interested to understand how that barrier can get broken.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a good question. This is one of my favorite questions that I'm asked. I think the best place to start is reminding yourself that you wouldn't exist without a period, point blank. And that could be a really fun way to start the conversation, maybe with your daughters, if that was, or if anyone listening is thinking, oh, how do I talk to my children about this? Just being biologically honest and say, this is how it works. Yep. You don't have to go into the birds and the bees. Yep. You can avoid
I already
that
have those
topic.
conversations. Yeah, I go full scientific when I have those conversations. It's the only way I can approach it.
And that's the perfect place to start. Everyone, because women have periods, that means that, they can make babies, and that's how I was born. Like, my mum had this experience, and that's how I grew. And I think, rephrasing our celebration and I guess our awe of menstruation is important to say, this is a beautiful experience. It's so human. It's so natural. And to really rephrase that and stay away from any instant negative connotations. Obviously, menstruation is not the most enjoyable experience, at least for the majority of us. And that's totally fine, but we don't have to preface everything with, oh, good luck, this is about to happen. You better be nervous.
Yeah, so you're setting it up with an element of apprehension, aren't you?
Yeah, and that's typically what's done. So you sit down in sex ed and they teach you all these things, and they teach you as though you should be afraid and as though you should be nervous. But it's not necessary, because we need to know our bodies, and we need to be proud of our bodies to have the confidence we need to be the best person we can be.
Brilliant. So I think, look, I really want to deep dive into this because it's something I want to obviously be the best father that I can be, and then obviously best leader and supporter that I can be. So bear in mind, these questions are all going to come from a point of curiosity, right?
Yeah, cool.
Why is it typically that, and I'm speaking specifically of men here, that men's faces scrunch up when they talk about period, and further to that, because I've never been taught anything about it, right? So, but typically the face would scrunch up, but further to that, what impact does that face scrunching up have on the person who is getting their period? I'm interested to learn that.
I think the answer to the first question, as a lot of things do, comes back to education. Because you don't know what it is. Of course, people naturally, like, we're curious, and we just, you know, it's not the most romantic experience. You just think, oh my God, what, you bleed for 5 days? Of course. You know, there's that joke of anyone who bleeds for 5 days should be dead. Awful joke.
Yeah.
But when that's the closest thing that you have in mind is something, you know, losing blood, and that's often related to death. You think it's extreme and you think it's uncomfortable, because no one's ever taught you. And that's when I think school can play a better role. And obviously, you know, teaching those life lessons at home is important to have the conversation and educate your boys as well as your girls.
Yeah.
And
I think that's critical. The education for boys is huge because, like I said, I grew up and was never taught about it.
Yeah. And the beautiful experience we've had, especially early on in Taboo, when we were leaving school, and a lot of our guy friends are going off to uni. Oh, cool. What are you studying next year? Both Izzy and I are like, oh, no, we're going to start a brand of pads and tampons. And they get awkward and uncomfortable and kind of change the topic. But then as we started producing more educational material and talking about what period poverty is, you just slowly watch these boys, these young boys who, you know, were wanting to fit in and, you know, start their adult life with a lot of maturity. They start thinking and learning about period poverty, and all of a sudden they're the biggest advocates we have.
Yeah,
and they're the ones elevating the work we're doing and telling everyone why it's important. And that was a really cool thing to watch. And that all came from education.
Yeah.
I think
What is it? Because there's this element of wanting to create a space where people aren't going through that pain, right? And, you know, they're not crunched over on the side of the road
Exactly.
in pain. Like, no human should have to go through that. Everyone should have support.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And that's the common thread. The golden thread is that we all want people to not suffer, I think, when it boils down. The impact that, I guess, the uncomfort that you see on other people's face, I think it's just general human psychology. When you see someone else uncomfortable, you think, oh, should I be uncomfortable? Maybe I should be uncomfortable. Maybe I should keep this to myself. And that's definitely what helps, I guess, breed that stigma and that shame, is that transfer of emotion. You just think, okay, let's revise this gusto or confidence I have about this topic because it's making people uncomfortable. It's not in our human nature to pursue those conversations again. Yeah.
It's interesting. So I asked my wife before coming on, and just like asking her questions, what would you ask? She asked Carmen Garcia about some questions as well from a social enterprise. We'll get into that. But every time I have a podcast guest, I always speak to people close to me and ask them, you know, what are some things? And one of the biggest fears that females have is having like the spot or the blood on their clothes or whatever. Is this fear a result of society's view and that scrunching up of the face? Like, help me understand that.
I think perhaps, and I want to speak generally, and I'm not sure that this is everyone's understanding, but it often comes down to safety, I think, because if you are if you've bled onto your clothes and you're walking down the street, you know that people are watching, and that's never comfortable. And unfortunately, there are just so many stories of sexual assault as well when people are bleeding. And I don't know if we want to get into this, but because you typically can't get pregnant while you're bleeding, it's very common in developing nations as well. If rape is quite prevalent in a community and a young girl is, if the perpetrators can see that someone's bleeding, they'll know that they're an opportune victim because they won't get pregnant. That's really deep and perhaps not that.
No, but very relevant.
And I'm not sure how prevalent that is in Australia in a fear, but it's certainly a sense of, I think you can just feel a little unsafe because you've got this big red stain, like waving a flag. And I think, just if anything, feeling a little unsafe for those comments and that embarrassment and, the shame, I guess, can be painful too.
So as a leader of a business or an organisation, is there anything that a leader can do in this space as well?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do, especially now that we are starting to see more equality in gender in the workplace, is to provide period products for your staff. If you're providing toilet paper for everyone, it's not too different because it's a necessity. It's an essential product that people use every day, and it's proven to improve productivity. Your staff know that they'll feel supported. It's an open conversation. If someone has endometriosis, for example, and you've provided period products for them, it's a great first step for them to know that okay, cool, my boss will be open to me telling him that I've got surgery coming up, or, this is why I need to work from home because I can't move, etc. Rather than if you don't provide period products, it's important to have the conversation and the door open to know that it's a welcome chat. Yeah. Because a lot of females as well, I think, will still feel uncomfortable. So you almost need an invitation from your boss to have that. It's
so strange because everyone, and when I say strange, sorry, that's the wrong word. There's such a vast difference in the way every person who gets their period, like the way what their pains might be, or their emotional state might be. Everyone's sort of there's no common thread. So I'm speaking purely from someone who's never gone through it, right? Like it's I don't know, and nor is it front of mind for me. So that's I think the most difficult thing is if you need support. I'm happy to help, but but I don't know much else. So you just. Is it about talking about it? Is it about what do you do in your office?
Yeah, I think it's just, talking about it, but also just talking about it enough that everyone feels that they can bring it up themselves. They can bring up their own experience and their own needs and, strengths as well. Yeah. We've chatted a lot about how the 9-to-5 working schedule is designed on a male hormone cycle. So men have a 24-hour hormone cycle. They'll peak in the morning and then it'll fade during the day. So we do our work in a 9-to-5 period so that we can chill out at nighttime. Yeah. And women have a 28-day hormone cycle typically. So our levels of productivity and rest fluctuate through 28 days instead of 24 hours. Yeah, wow. And it's a really cool discussion to have in the workplace because you can, instead of organising your day and, okay, we need to have meetings here and have deadlines here, if you consider the strengths that the female hormone cycle has, you might want to even plan, okay, you're going to be most creative at your phase of ovulation, which is on the 16th to the 18th of July. Let's have our creative brainstorm sessions over that time frame. And then you can do the production of that outcome and that design and that idea in this week when you'll be most focused in your cycle. And then, okay, great, you can do your day-to-day work in this phase when you don't have you're not peaking in estrogen or progesterone, so you can focus on your more mundane tasks and be creative here. Yeah. So powerful, so powerful. And that's how you kind of get the most out of your staff. But you can't have that conversation unless people feel welcome to understand their cycle and actually apply it to their work.
Definitely, it's definitely empowering. I think how do you deal with the fact if there's hundreds of people or whatever? Is it up to the individual to work to their own, and just as a leader being open to the individual working to their own monthly ups and downs? Yeah,
and I think so. I think it's an extension of respect and trust that you know your strengths, and I'm open for you to design your week to be the most productive and be the best worker possible in that capacity, and I trust that you'll figure it out. Yeah, and not still work as a team, obviously.
I love it.
Things can't change, but yeah.
What does success look like for Taboo in the next 3 to 5 years?
It's a good question. I definitely see us in a national stage. So at the moment we've got On the Run, Foodland and National Pharmacies in South Australia stocking us.
And then the online stuff as well,
Online as well, yep. And we've got a heap of customers around the country online. A pretty good spread. Yep. So we know that the rest of the country's interested and we're really keen to pursue some interstate stockists. Yeah, great. We want to expand our line, so we've only got regular and regular pads, regular tampons. We want liners and minis and supers and night pads and all the rest.
All the above. What's the reason why people would pick your product over any of the rest? Like, what's your unique value prop?
Yeah.
Outside of obviously the social piece.
Yeah. So, of course, we've got the social enterprise element.
Mm-hmm.
The products are certified organic cotton. So
yep.
they're really good for your body and the environment.
Mm-hmm.
Tampons are now completely plastic free. So they're packaged in recycled cardboard, wrapped in paper, and then the actual tampons are purely cotton.
Very good.
So we're pretty proud of that. And it's the most environmentally conscious product you can buy because cups and underwear have synthetic plastics through them. And in that context, there's a lot of innovation opportunity in that market because really those products haven't changed since the 1930s. So we're excited to see what can happen in that space, and we've got a few ideas. The other, I guess, unique proposition is our online subscription. So you can choose which products you need every month, and then it gets sent to your door automatically.
Yeah, great.
So you don't have to think about adding your products to your shopping list.
Brilliant. Now, I know that you have a no carbon footprint too. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the factory that produces the product runs on hydroelectricity.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Proud of that.
I've got a question about that later, from an innovation perspective. But I'm interested because you've got like these great ideas and you have such an amazing purpose, right, of reducing stigma and reducing poverty. The business structure of the social enterprise is one that I'm interested in sort of exploring with you because have you found that does it make it harder to build this business without, because like investors, right?
Yeah.
You need investors, and investors typically want profit. But
Yeah.
if all your profits are going to the enterprise, does that make it a tougher deal?
It really does.
Yeah.
When we started Taboo, we're really confused about how we should structure the business. So we thought, okay, well, we want, like, our whole design is to support people out of period poverty. So you look at it in that perspective and you think, okay, cool, you can be a charity. Okay, but to do that, we want to sell a product. That's where the money that's where the money needs to come from. So, okay, we're a commercial company. And then just kind of extracting the difference between the two was really difficult. And at the end of the day, we decided we can't do anything unless we're selling product and a lot of it. So we need a structure that allows us to commercially grow and have the freedom we need. So we registered as a proprietary limited company. And there are totally no regrets in that. We need to be the most successful company we can be, and we need to be a company legally to do that.
There's no need to regret that, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right in seeking out investors. And we're really coming to that sticky point now when we're in that point of growth and scaling. We're just thinking, well, it would be great if we just got given $1 million. Sure, we can give that back, but people want more. They want profit. They want to invest in something that's going to give them a great return, which we just can't offer because all of our profits are dedicated to our mission. And that's where the frustration sits, because you compare our model to charities who are also not-for-profits.
Yeah.
They have DGR status. They can get donations that are tax deductible. So you've got a lot of people interested in giving to charities because they do get a bit of a break. They get a tax break. And that's enough for them to give to a cause that they believe in. And we have so many people that want to give to Taboo, but they want their tax break. And social enterprises at the moment sit in that grey area between charities and between businesses where, okay, you look really bad on grants for business growth because no one's becoming wealthy, and you look really bad in charity grants because you don't have DGR status, you're not a charity. We fall into that grey area, and access to growth funding is so difficult. And I think the stubborn part of me just wants to sit and grind through and just advocate for the fact that social enterprises should be supported. We can have a relook at how we can distribute the money that is available for growth and business growth, but also charity work, and just think, how can everyone be supported to support social enterprises? Because it's not impossible. It's just not legally sound and supported at the moment. So there's a lot of work to be done, and I am keen to do more study and to collaborate with more social entrepreneurs to know how, social enterprises can grow quicker. Because at the moment we're just growing at the rate of sales, which is slow. It's
Yeah.
sustainable, but it's slow.
Just like without moving away, like I think, and what's going through my head right now is, can you put it off for a year? Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, is there a way? And I'm not. I know that's not an option, but I'm just brainstorming here.
Yeah.
The idea of going, right, even from an investor, if you put in some money, I'm going to pay you back this return. But any other returns are going fully into so the investor's money is still paid a return, but the profits are still going into the cause.
Yeah.
Like, is there ways that you can split to attract investment?
Yeah.
I think because what you're really looking for is philanthropists to come in and just provide money, and they're going to be few and far between, especially in Australia and all the above, and how much money do they give, and all the because like you're right. If this was a full blown profit driven, shareholder driven,
we'd be giant.
You'd be huge, yeah. And does that play in the back of your mind, and the fact that, hey, I want to have this impact, and I can.
Yeah.
It's just my model's not allowing me to. How does that sit with you?
It does sit with me, and it does keep me awake, because you do think, if we sliced off 20% and we ran it at 80% model, that 20% could bring us so far. And we're committed to our 100% model, but these things do come across my mind, and I do think about how can we make the most difference possible. I think it comes down to as well the whole concept of social enterprise, and this will sound radical, but it's important to flesh out. Social enterprise is so powerful because it is, in one way, the redistribution of wealth. So where we started on sweat equity and just donated time while I was working in hospitality, that sweat equity was enough to make us sustainable. So we had a big crowdfunding campaign. We raised $56,000, and we've been sustainable from that point on. That's the money we needed to start, and we can grow slowly. But slowly, that's the point. If we were to take on investors and say they gave us $1 million, and maybe we gave them $2 million to thank them later down the track, we are making the wealthy wealthier. That's the whole concept of wealth attracts wealth. Wealth is a magnet. And there's nothing wrong with wealth. I'm not some anti-capitalist, soldier. But it is that whole discussion of the reason we are supporting these people in need is because they're on the forgotten end of the spectrum. These are the people who are living in poverty. And the reason they're in poverty is because our system is designed to be so unfairly distributed in terms of wealth. And we have these insanely wealthy group of people, and then we have people in such poverty. And we know as well throughout COVID that the disparity of wealth has increased so much. Like, the rich are even richer than they ever have been, and the poor are even poorer. And that's because of our design of how wealth is attracted. Wealthy people attract more wealth. And allowing that investor model to fit into Taboo, you can definitely think, oh, well, we're going to grow so much, then we're going to make so much more impact. But the whole system, it's a whole system rethink, which is, I still sit in that radical mentality of, well, isn't it kind of submitting to the evil that we're supporting these people who are the victims of this disparity of wealth, but then just feeding that wealth further? Is it? Is it a click?
It's a question that we could talk about for hours.
I know, and it is radical, and I do want to do more research.
Because we've had some amazing guests on this show. A lot of them sit in the upper echelon, and there's a lot of good in those people, and it's about if they could give back and know that their money is having an impact, right? That's what they do. It's like, I don't have the time, therefore my money could have this really amazing impact. And I believe in Eloise and Izzy and the team, and their mission. So I'm going to put towards that.
Yeah.
but in the same token, to give millions, I'd like to see a return on that of some sort, right? And
totally.
Because to just give is you have to be at a certain level of success to be able to give that much, right? Yeah. So I think there's a whole realm in there, but it's definitely an amazing topic to continue on, and I'm interested. I'm going to watch your story and how you grow it.
Yeah, and it's so true. There are so many really, really wealthy people who are just some of the best and most generous and kind people I've ever met, and that's why I think our system needs to be rethought, because there's no reason why we can't live in a world that I guess values and places priority on equality. And we can all live well off. There's certainly a lot of money to go around. Yeah.
That's a whole different topic we can go down. So with the I think help us understand why that you would be interested in starting a social enterprise if you're an entrepreneur. Like, tell us about the young and up and coming people who the millennials, and we'll talk about them in a minute, but who are really interested in growing business and having impact. And we know that the younger generation it's all about purpose these days, and more so than the commercial. But if the social model inhibits impact, can you tell us what drew you into that model first and foremost? Like, I know the Daniel Flynn. Well, how did he and the Thank You brand grow? And there's got to be someone that's done it.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And Thank You have been treading those waters, perhaps 10 years ahead of us. And it can work. I think it just makes sense, and we get a lot of people asking us for advice or insight into our success in marketing or our success in the community that we've developed. And I don't have a lot more than just, I think people are really passionate about the cause. People care about, people pay attention to businesses that are paying attention to the things that people care about. And because we've got such a heavily social mission embedded into our day-to-day, it's quite obvious that it just builds that trust before you even ask people to trust you. They already trust you because you're not in it for selfish reasons, and you're not offering people work or opportunity to be involved in a community for anything other than the mission that they were attracted to in the first place. Yeah.
What do you see as the key benefits for starting a social enterprise? Like, I know that's like a really strange question because there is so many benefits, but as a managing director of a company that is growing, and you'll be at whichever rate, but what makes you sleep well at night?
Yeah. Oh, it's the most beautiful space to work in. Yeah. And I love how valued our team feel. We've got the most beautiful team because we're all there for the same reason. And yes, our day-to-day looks like marketing and sales and your very standard commercial workings. And we're good at what we do. We love what we do. But then if there are any points of, this is a bit of a drag, or this deal is taking a long time to pull through, or so to come together, you've just got that extra motive and that huge supportive foundation and layer of, this is why we're doing this. And you've got that stamina to keep moving because it's not just, this is my work and this is my day. You've got this huge cause and push and drive and energy force that's keeping you working hard, but working hard with a lot of love and a lot of passion. It's also been a fantastic marketing capacity because people, like I said, respond to social issues. So you start talking about an issue that people have thought about or they care about, all of a sudden your brand is top of mind. And when they think of purchasing whatever line of product or service that it is you're selling, you're top of mind because you're doing something for people that, need your support.
You're having an impact on the world, Is there Is there an opportunity for this social impact setup to be abused though? Like if you and I say that and I'm not suggesting it's not a suggestive question, but you know, if your profits are 100%, right?
Yeah.
You know, is there a limit to what percentage that profits go into it? That like, what is the limit? Like, can I say 10% of profits, and I'm a social impact business, or and then can I just exorbitantly pay myself a lot more so that those profits are less? And like, do you know what I'm saying?
Totally. And there's definitely elements of like greenwashing and value signaling and
correct
those things
and using the impact.
Oh, we're such a good brand.
But I'm earning more than my fair share.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a great thing to think about and be conscious of, because there are so many brands that will communicate how good they are, and there's not a lot going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And one of the other reasons why I really want governments to take social enterprise more seriously is so that there's better structures for social enterprises to be accredited. There are a couple of really great accreditations floating around. So there's social traders, and then there's B Corp. We just we're just certified as a social traders last week, which is great. Something that we put on the back burner for so long. We finally got around to it. And their design is that you have to be giving the majority of the company's profits or outworkings to your cause. So you can have investors and you can have shareholders, but more than 50% has to be dedicated to your mission.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So is there who's holding you accountable to that then? Is that what that group does then? Is that holds you accountable to that?
Yeah, so to be a registered social traders certified company, you have to have an element of your business constitution that highlights that commitment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for those who know nothing or not who know minimal about this world, should we be looking to purchase product from social enterprise companies who are registered under those things? Is
Absolutely.
That okay.
Yeah, and it's called social procurement, and Victoria, I think, has quite a hefty social procurement strategy in their state government. But there's no reason why businesses can't have social procurement policies as well. So you could have an overarching statement of, okay, 50% of our procurement has to come from social traders registered companies or B Corp companies. Yeah. And that means that your business's spending is done in a socially conscious way. And that's the beauty of circular economics, in that we need to buy stuff, businesses need to buy stuff, and they can buy their consumable goods, their services from services that are doing it for good. They're profit for purpose. And it's so easy. You can register as a social trader buyer. Governments, councils can be a buyer, and they can look through the social traders company list and just pick, great, I want them for my staff. I want this company for my water supply. I want this company for my plants. Yeah. Everything can be social.
That's brilliant. Going back into the wages thing, what is, and I'm not asking what you're on, but what's a reasonable wage to pay yourself, right? Because you are, and everything I've ever understood from you is it's so driven to your purpose that the more you pay yourself, the less you can give, right? So how do you find that happy medium for those who are interested in this world? How do you juggle that in your own thoughts?
It's such a good question, and the beauty of charities as well is that's all published. That's why as well social enterprises should be considered, so we can talk about these things more honestly. We're still early, so I'm not on a lot. I scrape through, but I'm fine. Eventually, as we grow, we will really run with advice, like published advice, so we can pick the business. We're in retail, great. Okay, what's your standard retail wage? And there's nothing stopping us from, functioning. And we want to attract good staff as well. So correct. As we grow, we want to have the capacity to have the best staff and celebrate their work. And
you need to surround yourself with great people.
Yeah, and grow confidently with courage. But we've had advice from some great people at PwC who gave us a big report and said, okay, these are the standard wages when you're making, less than $250,000 a year, this is what your wages should look like.
Yeah.
As you grow, these are what they should grow to.
Okay, so you're using data and analytics to come up with that, which is good.
Yeah, no, it's reinforces that direction of, okay, this is expected.
And it's not just at the beck and call of the director.
No,
Exactly. No, that's good. How do you wear the entrepreneur title? Do you enjoy it? Do you like it? Do you like the entrepreneurial world? Do you like the business world and the startup world?
Yeah, I think I'm still learning what that looks like, to be perfectly honest. I think there are so many different types of entrepreneurs, and a lot I don't really find that fits my identity. But then when I am pulling out ridiculous ideas and, getting a little creative with, how we can use the business market for good and how that looks, I just think, okay, this is a bit innovative. I don't typically fit into the commercial side of business, so maybe I do belong here. I'm honestly, in a more personal level, I'm probably still understanding myself. So not sure that any label fits on just right yet.
No, we're all grappling with the same thing, I think, and just trying to figure out what's going on in our own heads. I think it's an area for me that's I am really interested in, given just my two daughters and everything that I am doing is to empower them to believe in themselves about starting their own business, right, and about growing. Because I just feel like there's such an opportunity to create. In fact, before this podcast this morning, I said to my daughters, I want you to meet Eloise one day, just because it's...
I'd love to meet them.
They love Michelle, my business partner, and to be the more business leaders and creators and entrepreneurs that they can see themselves in, like females that they can see themselves in, is something that is of great passion of mine. So is there... you're doing all this amazing work in this social cause and the period products and all the above and the stigma, and are you also trying to create awareness for young females coming through who are looking to get into business as well? Yeah.
Oh, totally. And one of the more difficult labels I think I've tried to squish onto my head as being a business person. Yeah. Like, obviously, I run a business. I know what I'm doing. I do it every day. Yeah. But I haven't quite grappled with the fact that I might be someone that young people look up to for business. Yeah. But it's really important because I'm not sure that I had one kind of, someone to look up to specifically that I just thought, wow, they're kicking goals and they're doing what they want to do and they're, they're carving new paths and
you're changing the world.
Yeah. And I had a lot of men that I aspired to, I really respected their work. And that's quite a drive for me now. When I think about that context, I just think, wow, I do want to do this well so that there are so many young people that can just think, well, I can do it too. Yeah. Especially when I do school presentations and I just hear so much brilliance come out of these young people's mouths and they have the best questions and such good ideas. I just think, oh my gosh, I want you to take the reins and run with that. So
important. Human beings are generally born with curiosity, right? Like
so
that's why we stick our finger in the PowerPoint, because it's beaten out of us, right? Not by physical abuse, but by verbal, like, no, don't, stop, put that down, sit down, shut up.
That's weird. Do this.
Don't do that. Yeah. And I think if we can figure out a way to nurture that curiosity, I think it's really important. One thing that's I know that's is prevalent in just having two young daughters is that they won't look at someone like Elon Musk, like I look at Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or this sort of world leaders, but they would definitely look at someone like you and go, well, if Eloise is doing it, like, why can't I? Sort of thing. And I think that's the most powerful thing that I've recognised. Just in all of our conversations, we've had Sean Burgoyne on the show. He's an AFL football legend. But my daughters are more interested in Erin Phillips, who is his sister-in-law, right? Who is also an AFL in the women's AFL and a basketball legend because they both play basketball. So they see themselves in females, and I think it's really powerful to want to promote that, and I think you're going to have an amazing effect on young people coming through.
I hope so, for their sakes, because there's some brilliant young people around. And one of the things that I think Izzy and I have always thought about when we do school presentations is to, and it's also a bit of a cliche, but just to be yourself and to actually be honest and natural and crack jokes and be a bit of a dork. I'm such a goober just walking around and,
But you got lost on the way here.
Yeah, I did walking around.
But that was our fault. We sent you to the wrong building.
Yeah, but there's no shame in that, because the more ourselves we are, the more productive and the more value we have to give back.
Yeah, 100%. Andrew Nunn, the chief entrepreneur of South Australia, said on the podcast that we had when he was on, was that he would love to see a female chief entrepreneur as a successor, right? And I think that's amazing. Is there anyone, talk about people looking up to? Is there anyone in South Australia that you do look up to from that? I know you said before you looked more at men, but is there a female that comes to mind in that space that jumps out at you? Yeah.
One woman who's been really, really supportive and valuable in my career is Sarah Gunn, who runs GoGo Events, GoGo Foundation, social enterprise. Yeah. And she is unapologetically herself and so passionate about her work and is just dedicated to backing herself because she knows that the work she does is important. And I really respect her power and influence.
To let her put her hand up. Would that be something you'd be interested in the future as well?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Oh, Andrew has the coolest job.
Wouldn't it be amazing?
Yeah. Oh, just
the names he rattles off. Like, I'm a people collector, so he's just gone ding, ding, ding with all these names. I'm like, oh my God, that'd be an amazing job.
Yeah. Oh, and just to
see some of the product that's getting created.
Yeah, and care for it, nurture it.
Yeah. Pull
in the supports that they need. That would be awesome.
You're also big in innovation. Like, your way of thinking is like amazing. I don't have a creative bone in my body, and Gabs, our podcast manager, is sitting here probably laughing and smiling. I'm probably described as a cornflake, pretty bland.
I don't believe it.
But the idea of running, like, where do you get these ideas of like running your factory of hydro and all the above? Where does that come from? And this desire to have this impact on people and the planet, and and how do you then incorporate that into your thinking? Where does that come from?
I actually think it comes from keeping and clinging on to that childlike mentality. Because we started Taboo when we were still in high school. We didn't have a set of rules or an agenda to run with. We had the space to make our own set of rules. Well, why can't business be 100%? Why can't we sell a product that doesn't have any carbon footprint? And that's what kids do. They say, why not? Why can't we do it like this? Why can't? And it gets annoying, but that's because it rattles the gates that we're used to, that we're behind.
The confines that we're in,
And it's not to draw the metaphor too far, but we can just pick up a key and open the gates and do it differently. And when there are so many worldly crises at hand, we look at climate change, it seems impossible. We look at so many of these other big complications we have, and they seem impossible to have solutions. But the solutions are so accessible if we just remove the boundaries that we're used to running with. And it's that process of habitualization. Kids are so great at coming up with innovative ideas because they don't have any habits. They haven't wired their brain into habits of, this is how I open a door, this is how I put my shoes on. They're working it out themselves. And the best innovators, I think, are ones that sit and remove all of the expectations. And if there's a problem they want to solve, solutions are actually not too far-fetched, and the best ideas are so simple. So it's just, I think I'm quite lucky in that I started innovating when I was really young, and I probably had a home and a schooling that celebrated those innovations. I was never pressured to conform to the set of rules ahead because I had enough my sister's a really creative, my sister Sarah especially, and she was a bit of a creative inspiration because she's such a crazy artist. I just thought, well, if that's my boundary, then I've got so much space to create.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily need a colour within the lines either, right?
No,
It's
boring.
Yeah, it is. So I've got an attempt to be creative or innovative, I guess, in this podcast. And the only thing I could come up with, which it was, if you were interviewing yourself on this podcast, what's one question that you would ask yourself?
See, that's creative. I love that. Oh man, I don't know what people are interested in. I'm sure I've got some bizarre ideas.
Well, I think it's what is something that you're passionate about that you'd love to talk to.
Oh man, that is a really tough question.
It's putting you on the spot. You don't have to answer it. I've got plenty of other questions.
Okay.
If you want to maybe we'll come back to it.
Yeah, maybe we'll come back to it.
All right, great. But I do want to talk to you about, because a lot of what you're describing, you talked about the young kid in yourself and asking why, and that is the younger generation coming through, right? And last time we spoke, we did speak about the millennials coming through, and I think something that is very, like with SynergyIQ, the business that I own is we're a consultancy, change consultancy company. We take organisations through workforce planning and change and big programs, like real complex stuff.
Cool.
One thing that is prevalent in a lot of the conversations we're having is this new wave of workforce coming through, which is the millennials. And last time we spoke, you said to me in terms of numbers, and I went and fact checked it because I was like, I'm so interested in this. Was that the millennials? You said to me the millennials are catching the boomers in numbers.
Yeah.
Right, so I went and I did go and check, and I went on the Bureau of Statistics website. As of August 10th, 2021, there was only 5,662 more baby boomers, so the 55 to 75-year-olds, than the millennials, which is the 25 to 39-year-olds. So only 5,000 in the workforce.
In Australia?
In Australia. So you
Wow.
couple that with the Gen Zs coming through, like pretty much anyone from 18, say, for example, 18 to, well, no, you can start work younger these days, can't you? So you couple that with the Gen Zs, and they've overtaken.
Yeah.
They're going to be overtaken the baby boomers. So... So, in your opinion, what does this mean for businesses?
Oof. That I read that fact and I thought, oh wow, must be a joke.
Yeah.
But now I'm quite scared. No, scared isn't the right term.
I know. Like if we're thinking about change, it's and what the younger generation are purpose led and more impact driven. Organisations are going to have to change their ways.
Oh, big time. And I think we need to be ready for the gates to be rattled because our generation has, generationally speaking, more security than generations ahead of us. You know, we've never experienced a world war and we've got, typically speaking, our parents, working class money as a security. Yeah. We had a house. We didn't have to work for money. Obviously we do.
Correct. Yeah.
But... what's more forefront on young people's minds is climate change. We were born into the world being told from the age of 8 that, the planet's going to melt by 2060. And you're like, oh, okay, 2060 is not that far away. Oh, the planet's going to melt by 2050. We're not going to have, X amount of commodities and that it's the whole world's going to be at this temperature. It's scary. And we've just spent our whole childhoods learning about how detrimental this issue is. And then we start in a job where our boss maybe would say, oh, climate change's a joke. It's a joke. The climate's been changing forever. Yeah. Those sentiments. And you just think, well, what am I doing here? Yeah. I'll work for someone else who actually invests or, chooses to implement more green solutions in our workplace. And I feel more secure and my values have been, met. And these expectations, I think, are going to be hard for the boomers to adjust to actually respect that those requests are at their forefront. People want workplace equality. They want flexibility. They want X, Y, and Z. Want. Okay, sure. You could have this mentality that young people are demanding in the workforce and their hard work. But if that's the whole if that's the blanket scenario,
Yeah.
you can't just deny it.
It's your average thread, isn't it, really? Like,
Yeah.
this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
This is the new way of working.
And it's probably important to think about, okay, well, which elements of this are important and valuable and worth our company giving a damn about. Should we actually implement more green solutions into our work system? Will our employees feel more proud of the work they do? Will that make them better employees? Will that bring greater joy into the workspace? Will they have better relationships? Will they engage with more clients because they're actually respecting and thankful for the efforts we're making? Probably. And I think perhaps if you don't start thinking ahead, you're going to fall behind.
I'm going to ask you to answer on behalf of all the millennials.
I'm so not qualified to do that, for sure.
You got to do it because there's no one else here that can do it. Oh no, hang on, can you? Yeah, Gabs falls into it, but she gets a bit nervous and doesn't want to speak too much on the podcast. What is the millennial sanction? What is the millennial group or cohort, or even like just say the younger generation coming into the workforce? What are the primary interests that they're looking for? Is it, like you said, the green solutions? Is it the impact? Is it the purpose? Is it the culture of the bit? Like what do you think are the most critical things from a low-hanging fruit point of view that companies can do to attract and retain the young talent within their business?
Okay, I would say first low-hanging fruit, which is probably the good foundation for the rest, is to actually ask your employees what they want, what their agenda is, why they're there, why they took the job. Yeah. Because we can't just expect that everyone's got a passion about climate change. That's just not true. Yeah. We need to know why they're there. If they're there to grow and they're there for promotions and they want to succeed as far and as fast as they can, figure that out, know that, respect that. And do that for every single employee. I think our first expectations is that we're respected as individuals. And if we don't have that respect, I think that's when a lot of other frustrations can brew. If you actually think your boss gives a shit about you, you're probably going to, feel more comfortable at work. Yeah. That's number one. I think that's probably Business 101. Yeah. Not that I've read the book.
No, it's definitely Change Management 101, which is what we're specialising in. Yeah. Yes, well done.
Yeah, figure out what they want.
Yeah, and that's where you get buy-in from too, right?
Yeah.
So
and know what their values are, and that I think will lead you to which social movements and which, focus they'll care about. Because I expect a lot of young people will want to see, first and foremost, equality in the workplace. It's an uncomfortable thing to chat at knockoffs with your other mates who work in different firms. Like, oh yeah, there's only 2 females in my workplace and 64 males. And oh, why is that? Weird. Okay, that brand doesn't look great. Yeah. Equality is high up.
Yeah.
And in that, really robust social policies to make sure that people are socially cared for. So there's good sexual harassment policies. That's taken seriously. There's good parental leave access. It's not just for the mothers, but men actually have an opportunity to take some load on if their partner has a baby, for example. That's important. And I think companies actually just focusing on the larger worldly threats like global climate change. It's a big threat that's, I think, weighs pretty heavily on a lot of us. So if you're working in a workspace where it's taken seriously, it's a good step.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone should have a read of the David Attenborough book. Have you read his
haven't.
Book? Oh, he goes... And I don't want to detract away what you just said because everything you said there was amazing. But his book is like chapter by chapter by chapter. He goes of all every decade that he's worked in this industry of education, and he goes through the climate change numbers, and the numbers are real. Like anyone that is a climate change denier, you just sit there and you go, hang on, just look at the facts. Like they're there. You put them in front of you. But no, you're right. I think. From what I took out of what you said there was sort of inclusion, asking questions, really thinking about the bigger, the bigger issues, diversity, climate change, there's a lot in that, and there's a lot that because the older generation, if we call them the baby boomers, are they're potentially the more resistant to change as well, right? So this new cohort coming through is going to expect change and expect it quickly. Because it's kind of what we've grown up with, right?
Time's ticking as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't got we can't make decisions just based on a 4-year political cycle. It's got to be over this whole realm. Yeah.
Totally. And I think the most important thing to embed personally is just open-mindedness, which is so vague. But if you do have an open mind, I think you're a lot less susceptible to make a big mistake.
Do you think that, like, what would be South Australia's strength in moving forward in attracting young talent? And this is something that you spoke recently at an event. You're on a panel at the AIDA conference, and you spoke very eloquently up on stage about some of the issues and concerns. What can we do to keep some of the talent? Look, and there is the thought that you can go off and you can learn from other states and other countries, but how do we get them back? And how do we get them back before they're 50 and 60, right?
Yeah.
You know, so what are your thoughts in that space?
I feel like we really need to think about why would they come back? And we need to think about what humans actually require and need in a safe a safe life. Like we want to feel that we're safe and we're respected and we have easy access to housing and food. Really basic Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And in that, I think we also need to really consider how socially diverse and open-minded our society is. I think a lot of people could feel quite suffocated in South Australia because we are really focused on colouring in between the lines. We want things to be safe and secure. There's nothing wrong with safety and security, but creatives and even innovators won't feel that they have enough space to run in the playground and push those boundaries, because those boundaries are often, suppressed or we don't have perhaps enough support in innovation. At least so far, there are some really good things in the works, and I'm excited to see where that goes.
I mean, like 14 and all the above. But you're right. It was the typical tall poppy syndrome as well here in South Australia.
It's relentless. Yeah. And it's just old as well. No one cares anymore. No one cares.
Just open up.
And be proud. But it also we need to implement the persecutor of why tall poppy syndrome exists in the first place, and actually celebrate other people's success. And don't play games in suppressing other people's success because it's small and you want to take their place instead. It's so childish.
I'm interested in that. Your friendship group, how do they handle your success?
Oh, that's a good one. My friendship group now they're brilliant. I've been in the last, since leaving school, I guess, I've been really diligent in surrounding myself with really brilliant, supportive people. And I think at the end of the day, if you've got a mutually respected friendship, that's that. If your friends respect you, then of course they'll come and celebrate with you. And it's definitely not been a linear learning experience. I've lost a lot of friends, and that's hard to experience. You just think, oh, why? But at the end of the day, if people aren't treating you with respect, or if they're not, they don't care for you, then the why is insignificant. And I could have surrendered to the tall poppy syndrome and just, suppressed my success or not showed any sense of pride for myself. But that just erodes your sense of self, and you need to celebrate your successes. So doing that has just made me, I guess, keep the friends that have celebrated with me. Yeah. And that's the best.
I love that. I'm interested in your confidence in speaking and public speaking and sharing a message and sharing and look, a lot of that comes from the belief in what you're doing, right? So, kudos for that. I run a podcast, a relatively successful podcast. We've had some amazing speakers on there, but I still every single day suffer from imposter syndrome, and I've built a relatively co-created it and with a team built a successful company, and still feel imposter syndrome every time I go out. How do you manage yourself from being asked to speak on a panel with, you had the mayor of Sandy Vashore there, and you had the chancellor. I had some amazing. Like, do you manage that well? Do you ever pinch yourself and go?
That's a great question, because I am a huge victim to imposter syndrome. It's awful, and in all honesty, I had to take leave recently because my anxiety was just relentless, and it was. I had a bit of a breakdown. I wasn't burning out, but it was just, things were packing on top of each other. And I had a bit of a breakdown, and my sister says, you can't have a breakthrough without a breakdown. And that's totally what I've been experiencing the last 2 or 3 months, is actually re-understanding myself in a capacity that's, not caught up in the badges or things or titles or experiences like speaking on a panel, etc. Just removing all of the shiny bits and thinking, cool, what's my work? What am I doing? What am I saying? And understanding that in a really basic personal capacity does erode that imposter syndrome, because you can just feel proud of the work that you're doing, and not get distracted by all the shiny bits that make you feel really insignificant. Because at the end of the day, we're so human, and we're as human as each other, and that's such an important thing to remember. And it's a daily grind. You do have to wake up every day and just think, this is my job. And as much accolades or respect that you get thrown at you, it doesn't mean anything. It's people's expression of the work that you do. It doesn't change your day to day. It doesn't change why you're doing the work you're doing.
Very profound. I must admit that when I saw you on that panel at AIDA, I think it's where we met, and I approached you after and asked if you were interested to come on the show to have a chat. And I think what appealed to me was your passion in towing the line of what you're saying, right? It was this, I know, because the topic was millennials in the workforce, and you were very strong in your stance and going, well, I am who I am, and I'm saying what I'm saying because I believe what I'm saying, right? And it was just, it was wise above all your years, right? So I just wanted to say kudos for getting up on stage and saying that. Look, I am conscious of your time. You're heading off for a nice week. Well done. Enjoy the stars out there. It should be amazing. But I want to ask just a few quick questions before we round off. What does the future look like for Eloise? And on the topic of your break recently, from your couple of your weeks off or whatever you might had, in amongst all that is Isabel is leaving the company. So what does Taboo look like now? And what does your future from the brand, what is that? Where's that going?
Totally. Yeah, that was funny timing. I had some time off, and it was perfect because I kind of regained my sense of self. And then a couple of weeks later, Izzy and I had a chat. Izzy and I obviously founded Taboo together 5 or 6 years ago now. She's always had her heart set on medicine. She'll be a fantastic doctor. And it would have been 2020. We were implementing some steps in Taboo for Izzy to step back and focus on medicine so she can be a doctor and I can take the reins of the company. 2021, she was awarded Young Australian of the Year. So a huge opportunity at our fingertips just to really communicate Taboo and what we're doing and why we're doing it. So Izzy took a year off of medicine, kind of backflipped our original plans, and we had a great year just telling Taboo, telling the story to anyone and everyone. And then, this year she's gone back to medicine, and a few months into the year, halfway through, she just kind of thought, I don't have the capacity to be with the company and the capacity that you need to be as a director. And just decided to head back to uni and focus on medicine. So super, it was a natural progression in that sense. It's certainly weird to do this without her. My day-to-day hasn't changed, but you certainly tuck yourself in at night and just think, okay, this is all my responsibility now. But we've built so much strength in the foundations together that I feel pretty well supported with a beautiful extended team as well. Yeah,
now it's about bringing in the right people to help you on your cause, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really? What about you, your future?
I don't know, really. I have a lot of ideas and goals, but I am still someone that does respond to opportunities. If it feels right, it's probably right. Really, really excited to grow Taboo to be bigger and better and stronger and have even more impact than we are having already. And really passionate, as you might have picked up, about the social enterprise discussion. Yeah. And there's some exciting movements happening. There's the Social Enterprise World Forum in September. Yeah. And there's a huge...
That's up in Brisbane, you're speaking
Up in
about
Brisbane,
it?
yep. One of the speakers, and I can't wait to be inspired by all the world leaders in that space and just to really, grapple with how this tool can be used and how it can be practically embedded in our system. So keen to see where that goes.
So on the growth of Taboo and if you hit your purpose and mission of reducing stigma and hitting the idea of reducing poverty, what does done look like for you? What's that? How does the world operate in a world of what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, I guess in one way I'm trying to work myself out of a job. Because if I woke up tomorrow and period poverty was solved, great, job done. I'll find something else to do. That's fine.
Well, you got to keep it. Now it's a maintenance thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And we can just grow and expand. We won't do condoms. There are so many. There is a limitless opportunity with social enterprise. And the brand itself. So we'll see.
What does a conversation look like when the stigma's gone?
Oh, that's a fun one. Just like your everyday chat about any other bodily function, like shaving, blowing your nose, anything like that.
Just, taking the taboo away from it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Letting people feel comfortable with their bodies.
I love it. Rightio, we are going to jump into some quick-fire questions.
Yes. Love these.
We love reading here at the Chris. I'm an absorber of books. Read lots. We all read. The community reads. What are you reading right now?
I'm reading Practicing the Power of Now.
Oh, okay.
I wrote this down because I can't remember, Eckhart Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle, he wrote the original
Power of Now,
and he's got a few other books, but practicing.
Yeah, it's pretty much the Power of Now, but the tactics.
Okay.
It's been awesome.
It's a deep read.
Yeah. I think this is the little version.
Yeah, okay. The squashed version. Because the original, I was putting it down every 3 sentences because I was stopping and thinking about, it was a tough read.
It's a lot to think about. I found it quite freeing. Yeah.
Brilliant. I love it. What's one book that you feel that sort of stands out from the rest? Like in another way of saying it, what's one book that you might have gifted the most or recommended the most?
Oh, I would say it's not really like a self-help book, but it helped me a lot. Yep. It's Glennon Doyle's Untamable, I think. And
Glennon Doyle's a superstar.
So brilliant and just so, again, unashamedly herself.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah. She has a podcast too, I think.
I think so,
Yeah, really good one. A very popular one. What's one? Or do you listen to any other podcasts other than
Other than Synergy, yeah.
Creating Synergy, right? Is there anything else that you listen to?
Taboo has a podcast.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
You do.
It's
we
called,
should give that a plug.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's called The Flow.
The Flow. Well done.
Yeah. So
what's the typical what do you normally talk about on?
Yeah, last season we did a lot of health related topics,
Yeah.
which were really helpful for a lot of our listeners.
Yeah.
This season we're still diving into some health, but also business. People are really interested in the practicalities of business and social enterprise and product innovation, etc. So yeah, little combination of both this season.
Yeah, brilliant.
So that's probably what I have time to listen to after we've recorded them, just to make sure I don't sound like an idiot. Yeah.
I listen to every podcast and every of that I do, and every single one I think I sound like an idiot. So
it's awful, but
Yeah, sick of hearing your own voice. If you could have what is one lesson that's taking you the longest to learn?
A lesson that my best mate from high school, Lily, has tried to teach me since I was 13, which is how to say no.
Oh.
I'm really bad at putting boundaries in. And I think that's always going to be a learning curve. Yeah. You'll have all these new seasons of life and your boundaries will look different. They'll look different with different people and work and etc. But it's hard.
It is. I struggle. Do you listen to Tim Ferriss' podcast?
No.
Or do you know who Tim Ferriss is?
No.
So he wrote the 4 Hour Work Week. Everything is about reducing time, and his whole premise is becoming an expert in something, and to do that you have to sacrifice all the above. Right. And his model in saying, let's say you get invited to a party, and you don't really want to go, but you feel obliged because it's the right thing to do. You know, we've all been there, right? So his attitude and his model is, I have to either say fuck yeah or it's a no.
Yeah.
So if I'm not jumping out of my skin to go, I'm not going.
Yeah, right. That's a good... Okay, that sounds really hard.
It does. Yeah, because then the skeptics jump in. It's well, what if you did go and it was the best night of your life and all the above?
Exactly.
Yeah, I know, but that's his model. So
I'll think about it.
Maybe think about that, yeah. If you could invite 3 people for dinner, who would they be?
Muhammad Yunus. He won a Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
About microfinance.
Yeah.
So brilliant social entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And he believes that everyone has an entrepreneurial spirit. So he would hate that you said that you didn't have a creative bone in your body, because he would say, no, you do. You've got an idea.
I say it, but I know that I've got a little bit in there.
Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers,
bass
player. Oh my gosh. I read his memoir and I just thought, this guy is amazing.
How good's that?
So brilliant.
Are they? No, there's someone messaged me last night saying they're going to the concert.
Yeah. Oh, I bought tickets to Perth.
Yeah.
My mate Katie, I'm so excited.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. He would just be brilliant. I would just love to listen to his brain run riots. What a creative. He just paved a new genre of music.
What was his brain affected by any?
Many substances.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear from all different aspects, wouldn't it?
Oh, so many stories.
Yeah.
I'd love to sit and listen to him, and I mean it would be a chaotic seating if they're all in the one table together because they're so different. But my nanny, I didn't get to know my nan too well because she passed away when I was 5 or 6, but I know that she's got a lot of credit to take for, I guess, the strength of my family.
Yeah.
So I would just love to actually get to know her as an adult because, I was so little.
What's your nanny's name?
Imelda.
Imelda
Cullen.
Imelda and Flea.
You know what? I reckon they'd be best mates.
I think they'd be arm in arm. Yeah, absolutely. What's some of the best advice that you've ever received?
A lot. Something that I've been, I guess, ringing through my brain a lot is actually from Glennon Doyle's book, We Can Do Hard Things. It's so simple, but it's been so helpful because it's just such a good reminder. Things can feel really scary. We can do hard things. Oh, of course we can. Cool. Yeah. I'm fine. I'm going to get it done.
Well, it's the hard that makes it great.
Yeah.
That's how I if it's easy, then it's boring as batshit. I don't want to do it.
No.
Yeah, it's the hard things that make it great. Yeah. I love that.
No, it's good.
If you had access to a time machine, where would you go?
Definitely not the future.
Oh, really?
No way. That would ruin the surprise. Totally.
Well, it depends on how far.
I wouldn't want to go a day ahead.
Really?
Yeah.
What about 100 years ahead?
Nah.
Nah?
Nah.
No interest.
I'd be too spooked. And then I wouldn't make the decisions I'm meant to, I think. I think I would like to go. I love camping. I'm about to go to the Flinders.
Yeah.
And me and my partner went to the Simpson Desert this time last year, and it was phenomenal. And I would love to go back in time to Australia, but pre-colonisation. I want to know how the country looked and worked and how it was cared for before white settlement. I think that would just be phenomenal to witness.
You'd take a couple of weapons, I'd say. The animals were huge. Did you?
Enormous. Those wombats.
Like they were monsters.
Yeah. I definitely want to be a fly in the wall.
Yeah.
I wouldn't last long.
I don't know. Your tent would save you, but that would be amazing. Because it's a shame that those animals were killed off, and even just seeing, the First Nations people in how they would have lived.
Oh, exactly.
It'd be amazing.
Yeah, and just to experience that culture and that time. Oh, it would. I think I would just. So much of the desert makes sense to me in nature, and I just love to know how.
Why is that? Like, what is it about it that makes sense? Is it the vastness of it, or? I
think so, and it just when you're so little and it's just nothing but red dirt, and you're carrying your own water and your own food, it just really. I found it so grounding because it reminded me that I was just a little human on this planet as part of the ecosystem as much as birds are, and. Okay, that might be radical, but it's such an important lesson to just know that you're a part of country. Like, you've got a role to play. Yeah. And I've got so much respect for First Nations culture. It would be the biggest honour to witness how it was practiced before white people came and, changed
just
it
their
forever.
way of life.
Yeah.
The hunting to this general survival. Yeah, it'd be amazing. If your house was on fire and your family, pets, everyone was all safe, what's one thing that you'd run back in and want to save?
It's really hard because I was like, passport. No, you can just get a new one.
Yeah.
Things that are practical.
It's trying to draw out the meaningful thing in your mind,
exactly.
Right? That's the premise of the question.
Yeah.
Passport, I'm not sure.
No. I think I would pick, and it's really random, my mum's best mate is an artist, and he is a brilliant oil painter. And he has the tiny, tiny painting of a rooster that he did when he was really young, and he doesn't like. So he would just be appalled that I mentioned this. Yeah. But I think I would take that painting off my wall and take it with me because it's just really beautiful and probably one of the most unique and sentimental things that I have. Because Jimmy's been around in my life since I was born. Yeah.
Does the rooster symbolise anything for you?
Not really. I just find, if anything, it would probably symbolise, I guess, the importance of art and how, you can be inspired from really simple illustrations and,
That's brilliant.
It's just meaningful, I guess.
Yeah, great. If you had, or if you could have, one superhero power, what would it be?
I feel like there are cooler superpowers listed. If I read a big list, I would be like, wicked, that would change the world. But
everyone goes with fly, right?
Oh, well, I think that's what I would do, yeah.
I knew it.
I love it. I was thinking about it. I was like, I love going like fast on a bike because wind feels fantastic. If I could just fly, that would be great.
It's funny because there's this thing. I don't know what it is, but I said this to Andrew in the previous podcast, and you'll get it too because I said this exact same thing. Yeah. I'd say 80% to 90% of our people say fly.
Really?
Yeah, they come on this show.
Wow.
I don't know what it is. I'm actually interested in exploring that a little bit further.
Yeah.
And go. Maybe some of them might be it's just the easiest answer, but there's this genuine desire to get up into the sky
and fly.
Wow. And be free and not be bounded by gravity or anything that.
So interesting. I wonder if you interviewed a completely different subgroup of people, if there would be a common thread with flying or another superpower as well. Like, is it
so true.
a demographic thing or is it an experience thing? We all.
Ask kids. I've always thought about doing a podcast for kids, like,
Yeah.
and bringing them on and asking some of these questions
I would
because their
love
brains
that.
would work so differently.
Totally.
Brilliant. And like, I'm a really big fan of shit jokes. So do you have a dad joke, mum or dad joke?
That's one question that I didn't give any thought to.
Surely your partner's told you a couple of bad jokes, or your dad's told you a couple of bad jokes.
Dad will bring out like 15 jokes a night. Most of them are inappropriate to share.
Yeah, okay.
Mum has this one that she says too often is a skeleton walked into a bar and he ordered a beer and a mop.
That's horrible.
I know, it's just, you're stupid.
What's the... Brilliant. Well, give your mum tell her that that's going straight to the pool room.
Yeah.
It's going
Yeah, good.
the Hall of Fame. Well done. Look, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an amazing chat. We've deep dived. We've gone into some issues. I've learned a lot as well, and I hope people listening in have learned a lot. I do really want to say thank you for everything that you're doing in this world, right? From an impact point of view, from a purpose, from an awareness and an educational point of view. Keep going. I think it's an amazing product. It's an amazing, I guess, cause. And, you know, I think I speak for everyone. We really want to see you succeed. So shout out if you ever need anything, but kudos to you and the team for what you're doing.
Thanks so much for the interview. That was fun.
It was really
chat.
good. Where can we find you? Where can people connect with you?
Yeah. You can find Taboo, if you Google Taboo products, you'll find our website, our Instagram, Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn.
Yep.
My name's Eloise.
Yep.
LinkedIn, Facebook, tabooau.co is a website as well if you want to buy some product.
Excellent. Check her out and we'll catch you next time.
Cool. See you then. Thanks.
Take care. See you guys. Thanks for listening to the podcast all. You can check out the show notes if there was anything of interest to you and find out more about us at SynergyIQ.com.au. I am going to ask though, if you did like the podcast, it would absolutely mean the world to me if you could subscribe, rate and review. And if you didn't like it, that's all right too. There's no need to do anything. Take care guys. All the best.
Thank you once again for joining us here at Creating Synergy. It's been great spending this time with you. Please jump onto the SynergyIQ Facebook and LinkedIn page where the discussion continues after the show. Join our mailing list so you'll know what's happening next at SynergyIQ.com.au. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. And if you really enjoyed it, please share it with your friends.